Hey everyone, welcome back to Just in Time
2.0.
Thank you. Right now we are at Cumberland Caverns, I believe, right, in Tennessee.
Yes.
So it's our first trip here. I believe Victoria is our guide today. So far she's really cool. We're excited. Should be pretty interesting.
He was standing right up there on that ledge when he felt a cool gust of wind, and he thought that was strange. It was the middle of summer in Tennessee. So he climbed out to investigate, and right where those doors are, there was a basketball-sized hole. And like any sane man would, he climbed inside this hole. What he realized, he named the Henshaw Cave after the family that lived here. And then about 1.5 miles that way, there's another cave opening. One of our hiking trails leads up to it. And he found that cave, and he named it Higginbotham Cave after himself. And it wasn't until over 100 years later, in 1953, that we found out that these two caves were actually one big cave system. In 1955, we changed our name to Cumberland Caverns because it fits a lot better on a t-shirt than Henshaw Higginbotham Cave. Then, July 4th, 1956, we started giving our first tours, and we have ever since, so for roughly about 60 years now. And this is the second largest cave system in Eastern America, second to Mammoth Cave in Kentucky. We got around 32 miles of cave. All right, let's go on in. What is it?
Okay, hold on.
Alright, so come on down in here, guys. Just go to where the concrete ends down there. Still, when we gave our first tour back July 4th, 1956, it was to a group of 4 people. At the end of the tour, we asked them, what do you think of the cave? They said they loved it, but one guy in the group was really pessimistic. He told us it was a fake cave. We asked him what he was talking about. He said, well, the cave I went in last week had a moonshine still. This one doesn't. So later that evening, he went home to his basement and he got one of the 3 illegal moonshine stills out of his basement and he donated it to us. And that man was also our local sheriff at the time. So, welcome to Tennessee. Did any of you know what saltpeter is a main ingredient in? Any guesses?
Gunpowder.
Gunpowder. So, from 1812 to 1865, the end of the Civil War, they would do saltpeter mining in here. What they would do is they'd have soldiers in this room, and they'd be taking this cave soil down here and putting it into that box right there. That box is what we call a leaching vat, like that's the original one up there. So they'd put that cave soil in there, and they'd take water from our never-ending waterfall, and they'd pipe it down to run through that soil. It would collect nitrates, and what would come out would be a milky white substance we call liquid niter or niter liquor. We'd then transfer that over into that kettle right there, and they would put hickory ash in it, or potash, has a few different names. They'd boil that, and crystals would form along the edge of that kettle when it started to evaporate. Those crystals were your saltpeter, so they'd scrape those crystals off. They'd send them to a local mill in Nashville, where they had charcoal and sulfur, and that was your gunpowder. So it took a group, again, of 4 soldiers, 8 days to produce a pound to 1.5 pounds of this. And that was only enough to shoot a cannon once, maybe twice if they were lucky. So it was a lot of work for little payoff. Do you guys see that ledge right there? Right there in the back. So that's the original level of the floor back there. So it gives you an idea of how much mining they actually did in this room. Hole. And like Aaron outside, he had the bright idea to climb inside this hole. cold. Except it didn't end as well for him. Once he got inside, he realized two things. It was too tight to turn around and crawl back, and it was covered in all this bumpy stuff. So up here we call this cave coral or cave corn, and with enough pressure, it has the same effect on your skin as broken glass. So after 3.5 hours of crawling, he got to the other end, and his two friends pulled him out, and they said he looked like he went to a human meat grinder. He was covered in his own blood, and his clothes were ripped to shreds. So I'm sure you can see why this has been enlarged. This is the only part of the cave that we have enlarged. It gets its name, Hold the Mount King, from these three formations here in the middle. So that guy up there at the top, that's our king with his three-pointed crown. This skinny guy up there, the tall one to the left of us, that's our bishop. And this one close to us right here, that's our knight who's been lost in the dark too long. He traded his horse in for a buffalo right there. So you guys look up there and see MS 1869. Right up there in the black.
Yeah.
Sorry, my good flashlight's charging. So that's actually SW 1869. He just wrote it backwards. So it stands for a man named Sheila Waters. Now, a lot of people didn't like this man because first of all, he was a man named Sheila and he was a tax revenuer. So he would come into caves like these looking for moonshine stills to tax. But we never had any in here. And so we got that one donated to us. But I can assure you he was probably dead at that time, so he was out of his concern. So I think he wasted his time in here, but he kept using his job as an excuse to come back apparently. We found his name around 5 different times in the cave and 5 miles deep into the cave. So he literally went the extra mile to find a moonshine still, but you know, this is the optional part of the tour. It's 350 steps up, over, and down. You'll watch a 3-minute light show, then you'll come right back up, over, and down the same way. These steps right here are the most steepest. I was trying to think of the word. Sorry, my mind's kind of like, but steepest steps right here. Then they start to flatten out. But if you've had any heart problems, recent surgeries, or pregnancies, I wouldn't recommend doing this. Where the rock wall is, and then eventually there will be handrails. So stay to the right, rock wall. I can give it a new name I can't repeat. And then as we continue on down, there is the last original handrail from the 1950s. Feel free to use it. It's got a resin on it. You're not going to hurt it. And then right to the right of that handrail, you're going to see a hole. That is called our child dropper. Don't be alarmed. I've never had any accidents. It's hard to miss. It goes down 4 feet and back 14. So as we go down, watch your head and watch the hole. Right there.
What do you think, baby?
Pretty good.
Definitely recommend, right?
Yes. I like it. Bye. See you soon.
Thank you, Victoria.
Thank you.
Awesome tour.